Excellent. Welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for being here online and in person for our hybrid hydroponics and organic certification in Alaska. My name is Melissa Hoyer. I'm with Spork Consulting, a small Anchorage-based firm specializing in food systems research, applied analysis, and program development. And I've been working on food systems projects around the state for over a decade, and a number of them with the Alaska Food Policy Council. And I'm really excited to be here with everyone today. Oh. So I'm just going to run through a little bit of what we're going to talk about, and then I'll introduce our speakers. We're going to go over just an introduction, welcome to everybody. We have so few folks, I'm just kind of curious to see who's in the room. We'll do just a quick hello. Then Sundance Visser with the Alaska Food Policy Council is going to do an overview of AFPC's work, their role in the project, and the upcoming Alaska Food Festival and Conference. Mel Sikes with the Fairbanks Soil and Water Conservation District is going to talk about the statewide hydroponics working group and the background of hydroponics in Alaska and Fairbanks Soil and Water Conservation District's role in that work. Then we'll hear from Trevor Kirchhoff with Anchorage Greens. He's here in person with us. And he's going to talk about the Anchorage Greens startup story and growing operation and their subscription model challenges and unexpected opportunities that he's encountered along the way of a long time of hydroponic growing in the state. Next, we hear from John Tia Kern with Edible Garden, who is joining us virtually from out of state, talk about their expansion and the process, insider tips and challenges of becoming the first fully soilless certified organic grower in the US. Which is very exciting because there are very few, and so it's pretty cool. She does a lot of growing different mediums, but it'll be exciting to hear from her. And then Kim Hatfield will close us out with the history and process of becoming a certified organic hydroponics grower and how CCOF can help with this process with California certified organic farmers. And is actually so that we can provide answers to our questions and certification for folks who are hoping to get to that point in the process. And then we'll wrap up with final questions. And as folks have questions during the presentations, you're welcome to ask them after each presenter and then again at the very end of the workshop. To cover a little bit of who I am, but I'm an Alaskan-based consulting and firm advancing food resilience work and local food security, and work really around specializing in community-driven research with Alaskan priorities and results. I've proven experience in stakeholder engagement, agriculture feasibility, and market development, and have done a number of projects around organic certification work. Most recently, we did a lot of work around organic rhodiola in the state, which was pretty interesting. And that is all available on AFPC's website. Sundance will introduce herself as well, but Sundance is with the Alaska Food Policy Council. She's here. She's been with them since, you can look up more than since 2023, but for a while. She lives in Homer and is very integral to the success of AFPC. Mel Sikes, Trevor, Jan, and Kim all introduce themselves as well. So I'm just going to talk, before we jump off to Sundance, talk a little bit about this project because this was a unique one. We started this about 8 months ago, and the main questions were, really, you can become a certified organic hydroponics grower in the state? No one actually knew if that was true, and if it was true, how does that happen? And so there's quite a bit of research and digging around to find these people who are here today, because it is possible. It is a real thing that does exist. People have done it and are doing it, and it can be done here in the state, but there's a lot of barriers and obstacles to that process. The other thing we did was a pretty large hydroponics grower survey that lasted about a month. And we learned our first experience of the AI bots that totally messed up all of our data. So it was my first experience with really getting hit hard by AI interference when running a project like this. So it was a first time for that, but we did learn from the usable data that there are, hydroponic growing is still expanding in the state. There's a lot of interest, especially in more rural parts where there's such limited soil, and that there is potentially a lot of interest in becoming certified organic and seeing whether or not people are just doing organic certification processes or if they need to go through that process. is something that will still be determined, I think, depending on what those options are and those costs are to get people in those various parts of the state. So with that, I'm going to pass this off to our first speaker to Sundance to talk about her work with the Alaska Food Policy Council and this project.
Thanks so much, Melissa. Yes, so I am the Operations and Finance Director at the Alaska Food Policy Council, and I did some contract work for them prior to 2023. I've been on staff, or 2020, yeah, 2023. I've been on staff since then. Yeah, so so we're the Alaska Food Policy Council. Our goal is to create a healthier, more secure, and self-reliant Alaska by improving our food systems. Go ahead and go to the next slide. And our mission is to connect, advocate, and inform to strengthen food systems for all Alaskans. This project lines up with our mission on all of those sections, and definitely like the informing. We do webinars like this. We've got working groups and conferences to connect. We have a newsletter. We do advocacy throughout the year, like our food security fly-in to Juneau, and a lot of like written materials, summaries of legislative updates, things like that. Go ahead, go to the next slide. This is our staff. I spelled that wrong. We have, or we lost an F. We have our executive director, Robbie Mixon, myself, and then Rachel Lord is our advocacy and policy director. We've got a governing board with folks from all food systems sectors around the state, 14 members. Next slide. And then this is, our Alaska Food Systems Network is made up of our working groups. They meet monthly on Zoom, and they're all a little bit different. We are just trying to fill needs where people need to connect and get information. The School Nutrition Working Group is the newest one that restarted last year, and we've got people participating from all around the state. Go to the next one. So mostly I just want to let everybody know and invite you all to our upcoming conference. This is AFPC's key event we have every 18 months. It moves around the state. In 2025, it was in Kodiak, which was really wonderful. This upcoming October will be in Fairbanks at the Westmark Hotel and Conference Center. And we have our, all these things are open. You can register, you can propose a session, nominate a food hero. And we've got our co-hosts listed at the bottom there, Native Movement and the North American Traditional and Indigenous Food Systems. And yeah, it's going to be 3 days long, a lot going on. Go ahead and go to the next one. This is just our little list of our keynote speaker panels. The format follows our mission to connect, advocate, and inform. So we have these 3 lunchtime keynote speaker panels. And go ahead to the next one. And then some featured sessions as well, and Sunday afternoon workshops. So the conference will be all day Friday, all day Saturday, and we'll officially close the conference out at lunch on Sunday, and then the afternoon we'll have some workshops that are optional. And yeah, we hope you all can sign up or learn more. Go ahead and go to the next one. And yeah, you can propose a session. We're taking volunteers. Thanks to our sponsors like Northwest Transition to Organic Partnership Program. And yeah, go to the last one. I'll put a couple of links in the chat for our conference, and then also for the other work we've done on this Northwest Transition to Organic Partnership Program. We released a series of short films interviewing organic producers in Alaska, and they're all about 2 minutes long. They're pretty great. we'll have the filmmakers at the conference as well to do a session. But yeah, and happy to answer any questions in the chat or at the end. Thanks.
Thanks, Sundance. Does anyone hear any questions?
Are you still accepting proposals for work groups? Yeah.
Proposals for working groups
Yeah, or like breakout sessions
for the conference.
for the
Yes,
conference.
through the end of August, so August 31st.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions for Sundance? Okay, excellent. Mel, we're going to hand it off to you. Mel Sikes with the Fairbanks Soil and Water Conservation District.
Okay. Right, I don't see myself there. I still see Sundance. Oh, there we go. Yay. So hi, my name is Mel Sikes, and I work for the Fairbanks Soil and Water Conservation District. If you're not really clear about what conservation districts do, we promote sustainable land development and wise use of natural resources. Basically, we work with a lot of different landowners and organizations to help provide education in various ways. And for me, I've been fortunate to get into hydroponics. So if you switch to the next slide, as part of being on the Food Policy Council board for 9 years, I was able to work with a number of folks, including Robbie Townsend-Venel and Max Lyons and Sarah Renard, who used to be on the Food Policy Council board, to develop the hydroponics working group, which is our way of getting together and providing a venue for folks to just talk about what's going on with hydroponics throughout the state. So we have been able to hold a number of meetings and have spotlight speakers give us presentations on their particular projects, and a couple of them are in the room there, at least one. So if you go to the next list, these are some of the folks that have participated in our sessions, and we meet on the third Wednesday of every month at 2:30. In the summer, we've taken some breaks, I'm going to admit, but that's because everybody's busy doing all kinds of things. And we're always looking for more people to come and join us and share their experiences with hydroponics. But I want to share kind of what we have done by providing all the recordings of this group to anybody who can access them. So if you go to the next page, Food Policy Council has put together a wonderful page on the working group, how to get involved. You can sign up and get our on the listserv. But there's also recordings of every meeting we've had. If you go to the next slide, this is our YouTube channel. So all the recordings, all the visits are on here, and you're welcome to go through them, and you can contact the folks on there if you have questions about what they do. So we really have tried to make this as inclusive as we can, and I just love hearing from everybody all about the things that they're doing. It's hard to get presenters, so if you know of anybody, send them my way or let Food Policy Council know, and I will sign them up to join us. If you go to the next slide, so I've been working on hydroponics in the state since about the time I got on the board in 2015, and we started going around the state with a couple of my teacher workshops, and we got to see Juno Greens right when it started. I think I was doing a teacher workshop the day they started at the farmers market down there, their first day of selling greens, and it was pretty exciting. But over the years, we've seen a lot of wonderful commercial growing operations start in the state. This is just a smattering of them. I know there are lots more. But one of the things we do at Fairbanks Soil and Water is, if you go to the next slide, is we have been working with schools. My job here, I'm the education specialist, so I wear one hat here at my office, which is the Agriculture in the Classroom Coordinator for the state. National Agriculture in the Classroom provides teachers with resources on anything regarding agriculture. And we in Alaska have been fortunate to become sort of the go-to for a lot of the states on learning about integrating hydroponics into classrooms. So we have been doing workshops all over the states and all over our state, and I get to present at the Food Policy Council conference on this, but I've also presented at the National Ag in the Classroom conference, so people all across the country know some of the really great work that we've been doing in our schools. If you move on to the next slide. And why do we do hydroponics in school? Because the reality is it's really hard to do an outdoor garden at schools and get parents involved in the summer or anybody to really, you can have a super champion start a garden, and when they leave the school, oftentimes it becomes a weed patch. I've seen it so many times. And if there's nobody there to manage it, and oftentimes that picture of, those are my garden pictures. That picture of my garden was taken in April. Just an FYI. So to know what it's like for a large portion of the state. I went down to Tyonek to help them with their hydroponic system right at the end of school, and there was still ice on the lakes and snow in various spots down there. So anyway, move on to the next one. So one of the things that we've done, in 2017, I got a grant from National Ag in the Classroom to start putting together an indoor gardening curriculum, because we like to support hydroponics, but we also think that growing in soil in schools is great too. So we put together a whole list of lessons that are geared for teachers to be able to use. And I know we make it free for teachers. They don't have to pay to use our curriculum. We've gotten a lot of activities from different teachers over the years, and we're in the process right now of improving those lesson plans, but it's going to be up pretty soon because my coworker Scott got a wonderful grant to help us do some of that work, and then we have other funding within our organization that's helping us do that. But if you go to the next page, you can kind of see some of what the lesson plan structures look like, and you might notice there's a tower there. That one of the things that we focus on at Soil and Water is trying to do hydroponics where you don't have to buy a very large, expensive system. So move on to the next slide. All right. We also have a whole page dedicated to not lesson plans, but just instructions on building the systems for the general public. So we have a whole resource section drop down menu that you can look at how to build any of the structures that I'm going to show you here in just a moment. You can move on to the next one. So we really focus on that small scale hydroponic gardening for people at their homes, in their schools, in their community centers, something that's not going to take up a huge amount of space, but will provide food for folks without a huge cost. Building a bucket tower, using an old fish tank. If you move on to the next one, we have been really interested in getting people turned on to doing deep water culture, because we've heard from a lot of our communities across the state that sometimes electricity can go out. And if you have a system that relies on the water being pumped across the roots, sometimes that can, if you have a power outage, that can cause the plants to die fairly quickly. With a deep water culture, we've noticed that they can survive a bit of time without the light. They'll still need heat, but there's other ways to be able to provide that. So we've developed a couple of fun systems that, again, are low cost, no proprietary parts, that can be used around in various ways. If you go on to the next system, the next slide. We have done a couple of workshops, both for homeschool groups, and we did a whole series of workshops for the Aleutian Pribilof Islands Association on doing hydroponics in just a storage tub, which most people have laying around. How can you set up something super simple and have fresh produce for your family? If you move on to the next one, if you got an old fish tank laying around, this is one that's been in our office for quite some time. We don't put fish in it because we add the nutrients, but it really provides a super simple way of doing it. Okay, you can move on to the next one. A couple years ago, my coworkers started working on developing this system, which is in sleds that people usually use and pull behind snow machines. It's really basic, simple, pushing the water around to the different system. There is no separate tank. All the water's within the two sleds, and we have all the directions for building this on our website. Go ahead and move on to the next one. We also have been putting out in our community a lot of hydroponic grow towers. Again, those are ones if the power goes out, the plants often have trouble. But a few years ago, we got a wonderful grant through our school nutrition program at the district here in Fairbanks to put these Let Us Grow towers in a number of classrooms throughout Fairbanks to help improve the kids learning how to grow, but also some of that food went into the school lunch program, a small amount of it anyway. If you go on to the next slide, this is at Effie Cochran School here, which is a native culture based magnet school, no, charter school, sorry. And we connected with our school nutrition program director, Trevor Bridgewater, and he started going and collecting the lettuce there and passing it out to the different school lunch programs. So it was fantastic. At the time, they were using this big NFT system in the back, and they were having so many problems with it, the little hoses popping off, that they switched that whole system to a deep water culture system, which was really kind of cool. Okay, we can move on to the next slide. The other part of our program here is we've been doing a lot of community projects. We had a whole farmer training program that was trying to work with a number of our community groups as well. And we were able to, with a number of series of grants, putting hydroponic systems in a number of our agencies that deal with community action. We were in the Fairbanks Boys and Girls Club, which is now shut down, but we put up a number of systems in Northern Hope Center. We had a couple of other places around town that we gave towers to, and they were producing food for folks to take home. You could pass on to the next one. One of the big fun things that we've been working on recently is, as we talk to different communities, some of the hardest things to get is fertilizer because of a lot of issues. And my coworker Scott and his friend Will Hutto developed this microbe-based fertilizer program. And we have directions for that on our website, a simple way of developing fertilizer for hydroponics that works well without having to buy commercial salt-based fertilizers. Okay, we can move on to the next one. So these are some of the ones that we've used in our hydroponic systems, and we're in the process of testing a few different ones right now with Scott's new program. But we found that some of these, they have some disadvantages. It's hard for us to get some of them in bulk coming up. And we've been investigating different ways to do it where it's a little bit more self-sustaining. And the biologic fertilizer has been working for that. It's not 100% perfect, but it works really well. If you go on to the next one. So it's a mix of bacteria, fungi, and protozoa, nematodes, all kinds of fun things that are in that mix. You move on to the next slide. And this is the process of starting a biologic fertilizer system. And it's not really all that hard. So and you can do it in a 5-gallon bucket, which is great. If you want to move on to the next one. And these are pretty much the components that you need as far as the supplies. Move on to the next one. And it's kind of like sourdough. You have to feed it some green plant material for it to keep going. And go on to the next one. I'm sorry, I know I put a lot of these in here. And we've actually finally been we started out feeding our microbe fertilizer chickweed. So a different way of using weeds. Go ahead on to the last one. Oh, next one. Okay, so again, this is on our page where we have the for the general public. It's under our resources section, and we wanted to put it out there and see if people were really interested in this. And I don't know how that fits in with organics, but I think it probably could work really well as long as you're using all organic foods to feed your microbes. One of our students was really working on having a closed system where he was using the leftover plants grown in the system to feed the microbes and have it be a circular system. Go ahead on to the last page one. So this is my information if you want to get a hold of me, and I'm happily entertain some questions right now if you have. I know I went through that pretty quickly, but I wanted to make sure everybody also has good time. Does anybody have any questions?
I have a question. Yeah. Hey, Mel, it's Evie.
Hi, Evie.
Hi. I'm curious. I know you and I talked about this like maybe over a year ago. I'm curious if you've done any experimenting with kelp-based liquid.
We haven't yet, and if you guys have developed anything, we'd be happy to test it out on the different systems that we've been using in our office.
Yeah, we should talk about it. It'd be great. I'm just curious. Yeah, we should.
Because I know it was definitely on the discussion list when we were talking at the working group meeting. So
They sell some in Homer called Seed to Sprout, so you're able to try that.
That's
what we've been experimenting with in Kodiak.
Oh, good.
cool.
Yes. Oh, do you work with Max?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's I'm part of that group, and we made sure that Max had some to work with. So yeah, but I haven't heard what has been working.
They're using it in Port Lions for egg. So we'll see when they harvest.
Neat.
Cool.
Yeah. But have they tried it in the hydroponic system?
We have not yet.
Yeah.
That's something we're gonna try and do in the office first.
Great.
I would love to see that happen. I really would. I think it would be a fantastic next step. Maybe Kelly can have his kids do some testing too.
Yeah.
And that was my next question. When do you have your training classes? Because we have a couple villages where the kids do it in school.
Well, here's the thing, and it all comes down to funding. If you guys want to put together and bring us down there, we'd be more than happy to come down and do that. We don't currently have any funding to be able to go around the state, other than a few bits with my coworker's grant that he got. But you can get a hold of me, and maybe we can fit you guys in. I would love to come out. We had applied for a grant through the Native American Agriculture Fund to be able to do that, and unfortunately it didn't get funded. So
okay, thank you.
We're working on that. We would love to do more. Any other questions?
Sundance, are there any online?
No online.
All right.
I might
Well,
just sorry, go ahead, Mel. Thank you.
No, you go ahead.
I say thank you so much. There's really amazing work, and the hydroponics working group meetings really are. There's always something interesting happening. I would highly encourage people to join them. Thank you. Before we go on to our next speaker, I was actually going to take a pause and just let folks introduce themselves. I'd love to know who's in the room, who's online. I think we might, just for ease of this owl, introduce people who are here. If you don't mind just saying your name and who you're with, and if you want to share your interest or connection with hydroponics, that would be great. If not, you don't have to, but you'd be welcome to. Amy, go ahead.
Sure. I'm Evie Witten. I wear, probably like most people in the room, several different hats, but I'm with Regeneration North. We're a small consultancy based here in Alaska, working on kind of the intersection of conservation and food security and community economic development. And one of the main things that we've been involved in the last couple of years is the Kachemak Kelp Innovation Hub, which we founded and co-founded in 2022. And one of the things that we do within the Innovation Hub in Homer is we've been developing, working with different ways to produce kelp-based plant biostimulants, which is the genesis of my question about it. So we've been experimenting with it for 3 years now and have an initially well-tested product out there that we're really interested in getting in the hands of people growing either in soil or and curious about hydroponics in Alaska.
I'm Trevor Kirchhoff. I'm here from Anchorage Greens. I'm about to share my connection to hydroponics here in a minute, so I'll save it.
I'm Kelly Ballantyne with King Tech High School on my lunch break, which is ending right about now. So I'm really sad to miss Trevor's presentation, but I had a good salad and it's good seeing y'all. So thank you for making this space. I wish I had ability to stay longer.
You can join via Zoom on your way out.
Good to see you, Kelly.
Good to see you all too.
Bye, Kelly. Don't forget, we're just.
Road chicken.
My name is Larissa Wright-Ilson. I'm the Anchorage 4-H coordinator and also a coordinator with T3. So both programs with UAF, working with youth on STEM and agriculture projects. And then I'm also on the core team for an Anchorage group called Anchor Gardens, where we teach gardening and community gardens and that kind of thing.
My name is Tara Lloyd. I'm the executive director of the Alaska Farmers Market Association. Kind of new to this world. I started in October. I brought our directory for the summer. We have 84 markets across the state. And I'm just trying to learn all I can about the different ways people are farming in Alaska so that when I'm out at markets and people ask, I can be informed, and also so we can support people if we can in new efforts. I come from a public health, global health background to this work, so it's fun to be learning.
Hello, I'm Aaron Simianov. I'm a community catalyst with Kodiak Area Native Association, Kodiak Area Native Archipelago. And I communicate with all the tribes around Kodiak Island and help Max with the training. So we always go and visit each village to make sure they have all the supplies and training they need.
Great, it's great to have you here. Are you based in Anchorage or are you in Kodiak?
In Kodiak.
Oh, great, thanks for coming. It's awesome. Sundance, can I pass off to you for online attendees?
Sure. Well, you've heard from me and from Mel, so I'll just go down my list. Abigail.
Hi there. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, hi. I'm Abigail O'Connor. I'm a hobbyist in Homer and been doing hydroponics for many years and just really enjoy it and came here to learn.
Thanks for coming. Wow, you're in Homer too. Blake is next on the list. And if you aren't available or don't unmute, I'll just move along.
Hi, I'm Blake. I'm in Kasan, Alaska, and I'm brand new to hydroponics, and I'm the food security assistant for OVK. And we we bought a really expensive hydroponic system and it failed, and I was really frustrated and mad at it. So I'm here to learn.
Thank you for coming, Blake. Dina?
Hi, I'm Dina. I'm with the Produce Safety Program with the Alaska Department of Environmental Conservation. We get a lot of questions from growers about organics and organic certification, even though that's not really our expertise, but we're kind of curious to learn more about this process and what it looks like for growers in Alaska, so that we can assist them. And some of my colleagues are on as well. So Heather Brandvold-Faber, and I think actually Robin might have dropped off, but she's also with our program too.
Hello.
Thanks for coming. Kiana? Saw that you unmuted, but we're not hearing anything. Do you want to just put your intro in the chat? You could do that too.
You hear this better, or should I do the
Oh,
chat?
yeah. I hear
Sorry about that. I used the wrong microphone. But I was just saying that I work for the Aleutian Pribilof Islands Association. I'm their food sovereignty program administrator. And so there's several communities in the region that are either already growing hydroponics with hydroponics or are interested in doing some hydroponic growing. So I'm just here to learn and to be able to have some information to potentially share.
Thanks so much. Max.
Hey everybody, Max Lyons calling in from Kodiak, working with the Kodiak Archipelago Leadership Institute with Aaron. And some of the work we've been doing is supporting food systems in the Kodiak region and then Chugach regions too, more recently. But we introduced hydroponics about 5 years ago to the communities just as part of, a piece of the puzzle in the whole network of food systems and local food production. So just here to learn.
Thanks for coming, Max. You guys are doing great work. Molly?
Hi, my name's Molly. I actually work with Larissa, who was in the room. I work with the cooperative extension part, so I do the adult education. And we definitely get a lot of interest about hydroponics whenever we have any sort of educational programming. So I'm just kind of here to learn so I can share resources and maybe get some ideas for future programming as well.
Thanks, Molly. I've got Scott Faulkner from Fairbanks. Works with Mel.
He might be talking to some students. He's over at FE right now.
Okay. And then there's Sherry. And there's the Tyler.
Hi, everyone. Tyler Tulloch with the Prince William Sound Science Center in Cordova. We have a non-operational shipping container farm that we're looking at ways to get operational and get going, which actually would be interested in chatting more with, I didn't catch the person's name that's working on kelp biostems. Yeah, would love to connect offline.
Will do.
Yeah. I can connect you and Evie.
Perfect. Thank you.
And then Vanessa, unless you already went, or you're with, then there's a couple upcoming speakers that I didn't call out. So
hi there. Yeah, I'm here with Kim with CCOF, just in support of any questions that arise for organic certification.
Thanks so much. And then we've got Kim and John Tia. Melissa, do you want me to introduce them, or I mean, do you want them to go, or we'll just go on?
No, we'll do introductions when they get to their sections.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think that's everybody, unless I miss somebody and you want to jump in and say hello.
Good. Great, this is quite a variety of folks. It's really exciting to have such a range of people here. Now that we know the kind of the statewide outlook, we can, I think, go over to you, Trevor, which is pretty exciting. Do you want me to change the owl so you can stay there? Do you want to come up here?
I don't care where you
Come on up, and then you can advance your slides, and we won't move the technology.
There's no way this.
I know. It's just the arrow. So I'm excited to introduce Trevor with Anchorage Greens. He's going to be talking to us and answering questions about his pretty awesome operation. I had a salad from there last night.
I don't know exactly where to look. That thing?
Yes,
Okay.
I guess. Or the
yeah, I mean, I'm just here to talk a little bit about what we do at Anchorage Greens, answer any questions that might come up. So I'll just kind of do a brief overview. To start on like our startup story, my partner or my business partner and I started the Juno Greens in 2017, kind of as like a side project for both of us, like pretty much for fun. I came into this from like a equipment sales background. So I kind of knew some of the things that he needed to know, and we just decided to start Juno Greens in a boat condo in Juneau. We ran that for a couple of years, doing kind of the standard like wholesale to restaurants and supermarkets with a few products. And then after a couple of years of doing that, we decided to have me move up to Anchorage to start Anchorage Greens. And this was kind of our first attempt to make like a full-time job out of the thing. We started Anchorage Greens in, I think our first harvest was November of 2019. We weren't exactly sure if we were going to do the wholesale or direct to consumer stuff. We kind of dabbled in direct to consumer with Juno Greens, but we opened up just in time to catch the entire coronavirus pandemic. And so really quickly, like all the restaurants were shut down, and we decided to kind of like really focus on this direct to consumer avenue. And by the time the pandemic was over and restaurants were open again, we were completely sold out of the things that we could grow. And so we've kind of just stuck to that direct to consumer stuff here in Anchorage. Since starting this business in 2019, we opened a new grow operation, I guess, in Juneau, where we kept all of our wholesale stuff. And then we opened up a market there too. So we kind of do similar to what we do here in Anchorage, and we have a wholesale market in Juneau too. So that's just kind of the story of the business and how it developed. This is a picture of the garden pretty recently, I guess. At Anchorage Greens, we use deep water culture to grow the plants for a lot of the reasons that were mentioned before. It's super resilient system. Our particular system, you know, is not a whole lot of automation as far as like the system goes. There's, you know, nutrient dosing and things like that that are automated, but it's a really kind of like a human intensive process that we go through to make the most out of the space that we have built out there. So the plants, you can see different stages of growth and different sizes, and we'll physically take the plants and move them when they have filled up the space that's allotted for them. So that we're not giving plants more space than they need, and it helps us just get like as much as possible out of the space that we built. It looks the same as when we started, but there have been a few times where we've kind of really gone back and looked at the process that we use to produce the plants to try to make it as efficient as possible. And we've developed some pretty cool processes. So we haven't had to dump our nutrient solution since 2023, which has been a pretty cool development to be able to balance the nutrient solution over really long periods of time, and not be stuck in the whole like reset flush cycle that we were in when we first started. So that's been kind of like one of the coolest things I think that we've been able to do at this business. And then when we started in Juneau, our new garden has been set up like that from the very beginning. And so since they opened in November of 2024, they've been able to run a balanced nutrient solution, which has been really good as far as like labor savings, nutrient and water savings, of course, but also just like the increased production that you get out of being able to stay closer to your like target, nutrient balance, has just made a big difference in shorter cycle times and more production that way. For us, especially with the direct to consumer thing, and actually for any hydroponic growers in the state have probably run into this, that the growing is only half of the issue, because you have to figure out like what you're going to do with all this stuff. And it's not the kind of thing you can just like put in boxes and wait for someone to want to buy it. It's got like really short shelf life. And so, the growing it is the one thing. And then for us, it took a while to develop, but we kind of made our own process for selling the produce too. And this was really like the thing that we spent the most amount of our energy on after we first started up, like, what are we going to do with this lettuce? So we developed this market. This is pretty much what it looks like today. And the direct to consumer thing has been really huge for us. So we don't do any delivery or packaging. We've like completely eliminated single-use plastics from the operation, which we're pretty proud of. And so people come into the market and pick up their weekly box from us. And then we also have, it's a walk-in market too. So people can come in and just order things a la carte, like whatever we have available. And you can see we have beds that look very similar to the beds that we grow the plants in. So when we take them out of the garden, there's not a lot of processing that happens before they get to the market. And we've got the same people who are helping customers kind of process the plants and get them ready for sale, just right out there. And our main customers, this is one happy customer here who comes in and picks up like their neighbor or their weekly box for their neighborhood. You can kind of see some of the plastic packaging that we do end up using are these totes, but those are like basically sold to the customer and then they're theirs and they are responsible for cleaning and all that stuff, and they just bring them into the market each week. And we fill their box. The main product that we sell is like a greens bag, we call it. So it's just a rotating variety of leafy greens and herbs. So there will be a couple lettuce, a leafy green, like in this, you can see bok choy, and then an herb. So we grow a lot of different types of basil and dill, parsley, and then other kind of more obscure herbs as well that people don't really have access to any other way. So they're able to try new things. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much just a quick overview of the operation. I didn't want to get too far into the weeds of any of the specific things that we do, just because there might be different interests here. But if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer, anything specific that you might want to know.
What kind of organic grow media do you use?
We don't really use anything organic at all in the process. And the little bit of media that we use is a rock wool 1-inch cubes is what we use.
Okay.
Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So those work well for us. And Juno, they use a lot of also 1-inch coconut core plugs, which functionally are basically exactly the same. It's just kind of grower preference, I guess. I think it's a little harder to seed into those, but we could swap out one for the other with really no issues. The system will operate the same with either of those two mediums.
How do you keep aphids out of your system and insects?
We don't really. I mean, I kind of operate under the assumption that with little tiny things like that, with like bugs and microbes, that like everything is everywhere. And so we don't do anything like extraordinary to keep things out of the garden. I mean, of course, there's like clean shoes and clean clothes. You maybe don't go like play in your outdoor garden before you come work at the indoor space. But really it's about the process that we use to grow the plants that just kind of makes life exceedingly difficult for the pests to kind of do what they need to do. The couple things that we have dealt with like the Western flower thrip is just like everywhere in this part of the state. And so it's really hard to keep it out of the garden, but there's like I mentioned, their life cycle is such that like the process that we use to grow the plants, like we can't completely eliminate them without some sort of like pesticide intervention. But we don't use any sprays or pesticides of any kind. And so, you know, they want to lay their eggs in the soil, and they've got this 3-week life cycle. And so there's very few places for them to actually like reproduce and grow. So we sometimes see like real low pressure on some of their favorite varieties or crops. But we don't do anything like specifically to target them. I mean, there's a ton of cleaning that happens like all the time. So that makes it difficult. We don't use any soil, so that kind of takes away a big part of like where they would, you know, breed and reproduce and stuff. So luckily we haven't been or run into too many pest issues. We've also seen root aphids, which are a little harder to manage, but again, those, it's mostly just like very low pressure on their very favorite crops. And so it's nothing that really has caused any sort of like, you know, bad outcomes for the plants. Yeah, so we don't have to do much.
So is part of that just the shorter cycle of growing greens that you can cycle through if you start to have some pest pressure?
Yeah, and I mean, we also do like all of our plants are sold as living plants. And so we don't cut and come again what they talk about, you know. So if we were to like have kale that was there for months and months, and then you were just cutting it and letting it regrow, like you're giving the pests a long time to kind of get a foothold there. So like the transplanting that we do means that the plants don't spend more than a couple weeks in one float, and in between those transplanting, the floats are taken out of the garden and sanitized with hydrogen peroxide and pressure washed. And then the plants that do have any kind of bug population on them are just like moved out of the garden and then sent home with someone. And so there's just no chance for them to kind of like really get established that well.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so the living plants, like, and just moving them straight out whole has made a big difference.
Sundance, are there any questions online?
No, there's a question about the recording, but that's all.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah, go ahead.
What if there was something you were doing, like if you were gonna start up a business today, this business, is there anything that you would recommend doing differently, or something like if someone was thinking about getting started in hydroponics, especially not, let's say in Anchorage, in more rural parts to serve smaller size community, is there any recommendation or any like definitely do this or don't do this, or?
Well, I would do it exactly like we do it.
Okay.
Because it's perfect. No. I mean, the one thing that had dawned on me since we started is like when we first started the business, we didn't really have a clear answer to the questions of like, what do we do and how do we do it? You know, and so you need to know like exactly what you're gonna do to get to produce these things and exactly where they're gonna go, who's your customer, and stuff like that. So I was listening when people were introducing themselves, and I heard about a couple like defunct hydroponic systems that have been placed around the state, and that seems to be kind of like the story that most of them end up in that position, just because I think that there's not a clear view of like exactly what do you do, how do you do it, who's gonna eat this stuff, who's gonna grow it, and kind of an understanding of like the actual process that it takes, you know. In our example or our experience, the first few years even, we were just putting in like an unsustainable amount of effort into the process because we didn't have the marketing worked out, we didn't have the growing worked out. And so it just took a whole bunch of energy to put into it and to get to a certain point where now it does feel a lot more self-sustaining, but it's just hard to get over that hump. And I think especially when you're talking about like bringing hydroponics into villages, or rural Alaska, I think it becomes even more kind of difficult. Like you could park a shipping container in a village and just flood it with salad greens, like cut salad that people aren't used to eating and people aren't ready to pay for. And then you're just kind of like, where does the energy come from to keep sustaining, the process? So to think about that and have good answers for that beforehand, would be what I would say. Yeah.
Great. Any other questions for Trevor?
I'm just curious what people are willing to pay. Like, what does a share like that cost that we're looking at with the Happy Neighbor?
$20 a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And for our walk-in market, I think we sell honestly probably some of the world's most expensive lettuce. I mean, it's like we sell a $7 head of lettuce. But part of that too has just been an issue of like the demand for it. I mean, for our subscription, the wait list is like years.
Wow.
So we have like over 500 people on the wait list here in Anchorage. In Juneau, there's also a really long wait list. So it seems like in a city like this where there's enough people, I mean, the product that we sell is a little bit different too. Like, I think that for us having our own market, rather than just like taking the produce that we sell and chopping it up and putting it in a bag and relying on a supermarket to sell it on a shelf next to like all the other bagged lettuce, then you're kind of competing more on just like the price point. Whereas like the beauty of the lettuce that we can grow is kind of like part of the draw for it, and people come into the market and they can look in the window and like see the farm and they see the people that grow it. So we're not really like so much competing. We're offering something that's a little bit different than what people can even get in the store. And then it's also dawned on me since we started too that this is like a very fine point where like the existing food system just cannot do what we do, without it being honestly even more expensive than how we do it. And then just an insane amount more packaging.
So it's like a values-based decision as well for people.
Yeah, for sure.
Where's the storefront?
1207 East 73rd. So it's kind of like by Mr. Prime Beef.
Really?
Hey,
But
Trevor,
yeah.
I have a question. Have you found a dramatic increase since the issues with lettuce in the stores? And people coming in, walk-ins?
There was a while our wait list was just kind of going crazy, and there were a lot of people signing up for it. There was a bit more like walk-in demand and people were talking about it in the market, but it really just like turned what would be normally like we have a tiny bit of a dip during like farmers market season, as far as like demand in our walk-in market goes. And so it turned like what normally we would guess would be like a slower month into like a really busy month. But we've been sold out with the subscriptions for a long time too, so we're not usually dealing with like much surplus at all. But yeah, we were definitely selling all of our lettuce during that little
But
scare.
you have room for customers in the retail shop, like if people wanted to
Yeah, absolutely.
experience it for the first time. Okay.
Yeah, there were a few times over the last month that like by the end of the week, we'll close the retail market to walk-in customers, particularly for lettuce, just because we're always kind of keeping an eye on like how many more people are going to pick up this week, how much more lettuce are we going to have, and we don't want to fall short.
Yeah.
So there'll be like brief periods where it's closed, but for the most part, yeah, we keep lettuce available.
Cool.
What kind of licenses did you apply for with the DEC to get this going?
None.
None?
Yeah, I mean, if you get over, I can't remember exactly what it is. This number keeps going up. I think it's like you have to break like $750,000 in sales before you are like the USDA or something is going to come and may possibly do inspections. I will say though, like our operation in Juneau is GAP certified, which is like a voluntary good agricultural practices program that they are certified in, because they do retail through Safeway and Fred Meyer, which both require that. So as far as like our food safety practices in Anchorage are the same as they are in Juneau, but we haven't like opted into that program since it's voluntary and you just have to pay money to take part in it.
So you're not DEC certified because you're a grower, not a processor? Is that?
Exactly.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes
So
sense.
we're able
Yeah.
to do like,
Yeah.
if we started chopping up the lettuce and adding tomatoes and selling salad, we'd be a food processor. But as it is now, especially with the living plant, we're just a grower.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah, but it is always like really high on the list of things that we think about when we're like, building these processes to see like, because I mean, safe food is like really important. And one of the things people like about the produce that we sell is that you don't need to wash it. It's ready to eat right when they take home. So
Are you operating under the cottage food rules?
no. Yeah, we have some people in our market that are selling that way through like QR codes and stuff, but yeah, we don't have anything like that.
Okay, any other questions? Anything online?
Nothing online, just some thank
Okay.
yous.
Great, thank you so much,
Perfect.
Trevor. Okay, and now we're gonna jump over Jantia, who is the first soilless certified organic grower in the country. Jantia, are you on? Let's see my side.
Hi, everyone. So I am Jantia Kern. I work for Edible Gardens. We are a fully NFT certified organic operation over in New Jersey, and we also have a sister location in Grand Rapids, Michigan. But this year we reached organic status for our hydroponic basil, so that was a big step for us. So I'll just kind of explain our operation, and then I'll kind of get into the weeds of the organic. So really, this is our greenhouse in New Jersey. We have a very expensive type of system. We inherited from our previous owners. We operate on a Dutch rolling bench system. So all of our plants are kind of hooked up in bays, and then they're all fed a nutrient solution through little tubes. You can kind of see it over on the right-hand side of the photo there. The tubes that were previously said to come off in a system that Mel was talking about. We have that same problem here, but it's on a larger scale, and someone is dedicated to kind of make sure that those are in place. So we grow 10 herbs. They're all in pots, so they do have soil, and they're fed through the NFT system. And then we have underground tanks in a pump house. I probably should have included a picture of that, but there's a pump house that's kind of like our heart here at Edible Garden Belvedere, and it just kind of feeds the nutrient solution through underground water systems and other pumps, and then it delivers the water to each bay, and then everything is captured again and pumped back into that pump house. So everything is a recirculating system. We only have to dose the nutrient solutions once a week, and keep our eyes on it to make sure that it's not really out of control. If you would go to the next slide. This will explain, this is our hydroponic basil. So we use our own growing media, and we kind of form it into plugs. So we get in formed trays using our conventional stuff, and we just fill it up with our certified organic growing media, and then we seed in the basil, and then we allow that to grow until the root system is so prolific that it doesn't allow the media to kind of to get washed away in the NFT systems. So that's how we got around the battle of finding organic growing media to start out in. So that was like the biggest challenge for us getting started, was naming that kind of just that media that we needed. So we couldn't find anything that was certified organic in and of itself, like a pre-made plug tray that worked with our systems and worked with our crops. So we kind of just made our own. And then that also plays into our nutrient solution. So our crops are very nitrogen dependent. They're all leafy greens. So especially the basil, we kind of played around with nutrient solutions until it worked. What we found worked on a small scale did not always translate into a bigger scale. So that was a big learning curve in and of itself. Things would work on like 1 to 2 table systems, and then we would expand it to 10 tables, and everything would kind of fall apart. So what we kind of found out is that less is more, especially when operating a large system, because if you get it gunked up, you're going to suffer root loss. And if you suffer root loss, your canopy is going to follow there not soon after. So, on top of less is more, we found out that sanitation is very key too. Cleaning the gutters in between filling. So every time that a gutter is emptied, it has to be sanitized in Zerotol and pressure washed out, and then it's allowed to air dry. So there's no harboring of pests that we can really, or that we hope is getting into the next system being spaced into it. So that's kind of what we learned, is that all the things, they have to be organic. Of course, they have to be certified through the Organic Materials Review Institute, and then also approved by your certifier. But that is how we kind of find out the solution, is that we tried it in a small scale 5-table solution or system, and then we moved it up to like 10 tables, and then we opened it up to a whole zone. And that was like really the key points, is that it's like we had the idea of a bio organic fertilizer tea. We tried that, and it kind of gunked up the system when we expanded it to, I don't know how many tables it holds in the zone, but hundreds. There was an inability to clean the recirculating water. So that's why we found out that it was like less is more, especially when you're scaling up for production. Everyone here kind of seems like it's more smaller scale, so that would seem like it would work a little bit better. But we even tried stuff like nano bubbles to try to clean the solution in between. Like we would run the irrigation water, we would run the nano bubbles, and then we would run the irrigation water again. But it still wasn't enough to kind of keep the system under control. So yeah, that's, if you just want to go to the next slide, that's kind of how we came up with the certified organic basil. And then other than that, it's just a lot of, I can get into the certification process. So a lot of it is your nutrient solution, what you're using, what's going into your system. That's like whole half of it. And then all the other half is kind of like your record keeping. So when you're producing, I know Trevor said that he's not certified organic, or he has the gap at his one farm. So us at Belvedere, we have food safety certification and organic certification. So part of that is like a balance and trace exercise. So you have to prove to your organic certifier that you are not creating less organic product and like selling more of it. So like you're selling conventional product marketed as organic. That's a big part of your organic certification process. It's just keeping all your I's dotted and your T's crossed. They want to see things like invoices to prove that your seeds are organic. They want to see chemical records to make sure that you are using only organic chemicals in your operation. They want to do a mass balance exercise. So that is kind of organic specific. I've never done this in like a food safety primus audit. But so this is like you are you have created 5 million plants for the year. You sold 2 million plants. Where did the rest of those 3 million plants go? So it's just a lot of record keeping in order to keep and maintain organic certification on top of the inputs that you're using. I do find that organic certification is more lenient in the fact that you can reach out to your organic certifier and kind of ask for their guidance in how to go about doing a process. At the end of the day, it's always up to you, but they're always there for help. Whereas I find the food safety certification process is kind of like, these are the rules. You can't do anything else on those rules. Like even chemicals that may be not certified organic through the OMRI certificate process, you can email your certifier and email them a copy of the label, any of the COAs that you have, and sometimes you can work it out to where they'll allow you to use the chemical just because it meets the organic guidelines. So I found that working with organic certifiers is in and of itself a kind of a different world. It's very nice. And then it is interesting that in the organic world, some people believe hydroponics should be a part of it, and then some people believe that hydroponics should not be a part of it. So even in my personal facility operations, I have one certifier that will not certify my organic hydroponic basil, and then I have another that will. So MOSA is the one that we work with in the Midwest in for our Grand Rapids facility. And the way I kind of get around being able to produce it in Belvedere is that we are co-packers for one another, the facilities. So we just produce a Michigan crop, so to speak, here. So that is like, that's what I'm trying to explain, is that there's a lot of help in this industry and they want you to be certified organic. So it's a very promising industry, and I want to say that a lot of the newer certification bodies are getting on board with hydroponics, and I just think it's a cleaner way to grow, especially because we're capturing that water on the runoff. It's not getting anywhere into the ground. I'm not leaching anywhere. I'm controlling every aspect of it. Not that I'm not with the NFT system, but I just love the organic hydroponic system. So yeah, that's pretty much the certification process. Life at Edible Garden for organic hydroponic basil, as well as NFT systems. So does anyone have any questions? I've been through the organic certification process probably 5 times now, so I am very well versed in it. So yeah, I'm here to help.
What is the cost to get the organic certification and what is the process?
Sure. So the cost is really based on how much you're selling. I believe that there's a minimum of, depending on certification body, I believe my minimum is like $250,000. So if you're selling $250,000 in crops, you pay a certain amount, and then it's a fee table past that. So it really depends on how many crops you're selling is how much you're paying for organic certification. But I would say that it is more costly than like the GAP certifications or the food safety certifications, just because they are based on how much you're selling for. And then the process would be, you would have to find, I know CCOF is on the call today, and I know that they are willing to come to Alaska, which is amazing, and they're willing to certify hydroponics, which is extra amazing. So first you would get in contact with them. They would share with you their farm plan, any handling plans that you would need to complete. Those plans usually include a list of inputs. Those include like your media, your pesticides, your seeds, anything like that. And then your handling plan. So how are you actually packaging the crops if you are going to be certified for processing? And then you submit those plans to the certification body. The certification body goes through the plans and kind of asks you questions to really nail down and understand your operation from like a remote perspective. And then they send in an auditor. You have an auditor on site for about half a day. They just want to see your operation. They want to see all of your inputs. So where you store your media, where you store your seeds, making sure that there's no possibility of cross-contamination, and kind of your organic management system. And then they'll get into your records. I already touched upon the record audit process. They're going to see things like mass balance, your invoices, and then your trace back exercise. The auditor then submits that audit inspection report to the certification body. The certification body goes over it again, making sure that there's no corrective actions. And then the certification body either issues you your certificate or you have to work on corrective actions, and they'll issue you your certificate once those are done. But that's kind of the process, as simple as it can get, but it's definitely very in-depth on all of those steps.
And I know there's more questions about certification process, but I'd love to say those for Kim, who's going to talk specifically about certification and what that looks like more too from the actual processing part. So if you have, just so we don't all of her slides.
There is a question in the chat from Max about if you're able to share more about the ingredients in your grow media blend and if your system has any biological filtration.
Okay, so yeah, our media is actually just a peat moss blend from Lambert. It's a certified organic, and then we have a special screening process to remove the large sticks. Other than that, the seeds come from Johnny Seeds. Everything is either a Dolce Fresca or a Prospera compact seed. And then our nutrient solutions, we use Terra-Bella, which is I forget what the growers called it, a soil profiler. It adds biologics to the system, I believe. There is a little bit of molasses to feed the Terra-Bella, and then they do add biomin iron and biomin nitrogen where it's needed. And then pesticides, really, they don't use a lot of pesticides. If anything, it's going to be a organic application. And I think that's about it. Like I said, less is more. It's really about just making sure that what you need is in there and not anything else. Anything else?
Are there any other questions? No? Are you aware of anyone else who's doing soilless hydroponic certification? I was so excited to find you and talk with you about this whole thing, but I haven't found anyone else. Are you aware of anyone else who's made it through this far?
I don't think there's anyone else. I continuously get emails asking for different crops that are certified organic hydroponic, and I have to tell them no. So I haven't found any, but I'm always eager to chat about it and help anyone in any way that I can. It's truly an awesome way to grow, and I just love it.
And then I just have one more question. Based off of when I chatted with you earlier, you had mentioned that you have multiple types of organic operations growing. Some are in soil with your hydroponic setups, but there's a huge difference in the waste produced getting to market. Would you just expand on that a little bit too? Because I think there might be some interest in that angle.
Yeah. So the ways that you said the ways we get to market, right?
Yeah, just from the whole production end to the consumer end, the waste difference was quite remarkable between the various types of growing.
Yeah. So the soil operation is so you have to clean that a lot. You have to clean it out a lot more because you are kind of like taking the bottom of the soil out of the pots. So each time you're watering it, it's going in a little dry. So you're gonna remove a little bit of soil each time. So we are dumping the water from that system a lot more than we are in the hydroponic system, only because of the cleanliness and the sanitation. So there is a lot more waste when it comes to the water. And we actually aren't allowed to just dump it out because we're in Jersey here. We have to haul it away in a wastewater facility and then they have to treat it. So it's a whole big process. But it is a lot cleaner than our NFT systems that are produced. So, and we don't really have filters, like biological filters. We just have like manual filters. Pool filters really are a lot of what we use off of Amazon. Kind of cheap and replaceable. But that removes a lot of or it tries to remove a lot of the dirt, but again, it is a much dirtier system, the NFTs, than the organic, just because you're removing so much and you expand it upon 10 million pots and you're getting a lot of dirt at the end of the day.
How often do you have to change out the brackish water?
What was that?
How often do you have to change out the brackish water?
So we change it out every 2 days, which is a lot. And we have to
Okay.
clean the whole system and refill it. And it's about 2,000 gallon tanks of 2,000 gallons every 2 days. It's dumped and then refilled.
Everyone's sitting with that fact for a minute. Excellent. Any other questions, either in person or online? For Jantia before we let in Kim?
Nothing else online.
Okay, well, thank you so much. We're gonna
Thank
there might be
you.
more questions. Yeah, we'll have a few minutes at the end too. If other questions come up for all the speakers, everyone will still have a few minutes left too. So next, we're gonna go into our final speaker of today, Kim Hatfield with California Certified Organic Farmers. I will say Kim was a hard person to find, not on her part, but because no one knew of anyone who would actually certify hydroponics on the West Coast, let alone Alaska. So I'm especially excited to have Kim here today as well. And Kim, I will jump over and pass this off to you.
You got it. Hi, everybody. My name is Kim Hatfield. I support new applicants on their journey to certification with CCOF. So, Gentia, if you're ever looking for a side hustle, you are incredibly qualified. You did a great summary of the organic certification process. And thank you and Trevor for showing all those photos of your operation. That is so interesting and cool to see the on the grounds operation like that. All right, I will dive in. I'm here on behalf of CCOF, and we'll talk all about organic certification. Next slide, please. So I will go through just organic at its foundation, some of the benefits around that, the history of the regulations, kind of the players on the field, the USDA, folks like CCOF, and then our clients, the requirements that are needed for a hydroponic operation, and then the process, timeline, fees, and how to get started. Next slide. So organic, my predecessor used this phrase, is the most regulated, scrutinized, and transparent farm-to-table food system in the world. And it is more than just swapping out inputs. It is a holistic approach to growing produce and making processed products all across the agricultural sphere. Next slide. So I won't read all this line by line, but the main takeaway is there's definitely some strong purchasing behavior behind organic. The logo and the word are strongly recognized by lots of folks across the market. All of this data on this slide and the next two slides comes from a report the Organic Trade Association puts together, I believe on an annual basis, possibly biannually. And their reports are so interesting. If you're ever curious about the organic market and where you might fit into it, I would definitely recommend becoming a member and using their data to make educated decisions. Next slide. You can see here, all natural and USD organic are neck and neck, but I would say that USD organic has a stronger meaning with consumers because it has that federal backing. We'll get more into that in just a little bit. And then on the next slide, you can see broken down per category that produce and grocery are definitely leading the field in those organic claims and purchasing behavior. Next slide. Yep. And then I won't get too far into this, but there are a myriad of benefits to organic certification, environmental, economic, social, and this report is free on our website. It's you can easily get a digital copy if you're ever curious to learn more about those different things and how we break them down. Our policy team put this together a few years ago, and it's a really fun read. Next slide. Okay, now let's get into the meat of it. So organic came together in 2002. Prior to that, there were lots of independent parties kind of certifying internally. I'll get into our origins, but it was just a bunch of farmers getting together and saying, hey, I want to use this term. Let's make it mean something to us. Let's certify each other. And then in 2000, that community approached the federal government and said, can we make this a thing? It's not very common that an industry will approach the federal government and ask to be regulated, but it happened here. And now today, any use of the word organic, the USDA logo, or certifiers logo must be done through the certification process. There is an exemption for folks making less than $5,000 annually, and anybody over that would need to work through the process I'll describe here. Next slide. So like I said, the USDA has a branch called the National Organic Program, and those are the folks that write the rules. So they put together the original regulations in 2002 and they maintain them ongoing. They make the decisions around what types of inputs are allowed. They also release guidances year to year if there's kind of a gray area that certifiers are struggling with. The USDA would be the body to make those decisions. And in the same way that a certifier audits a farm, they audit us. So they come to our offices and they make sure that we're doing everything we're supposed to be doing and that we are upholding their regulations as they envision. They also do investigations and oversee folks that are not yet certified, but might be up to some mistakes or, potentially bad behavior. They would investigate those things. Next slide. And then third-party certifiers like CCOF, we are the ones tasked with then enforcing those regulations. So within our client base, we would do those investigations, we would do the annual audits, and we would make sure that the folks that work with us are following the organic standards as they are supposed to be. Next slide. So here's our mission and our vision. At its core, we are here to support organic agriculture for a healthy world. And we do that through 3 different branches: our certification branch, our Inc. branch, which I'm a part of, that houses our policy team, and then our foundation that does grant work and supports folks in the educational process around organic. Next slide. These are just some fun photos. Like I said, we got together in 1973. We were 13 farmers. This is our first newsletter here on the left-hand side. And we've grown quite a bit since these days, but it's always fun to see these. Next slide. Here we are today. The last time we got together pre-pandemic is up there on the top left. Our CEO, I don't have her face accessible here, but she's wearing the pink shirt on the top right. Yeah, we've grown a little bit. Now we've got just around 5,000 clients throughout North America, a little bit of Canada, a little bit of Mexico. So it's been a journey and an evolution. We're so happy to still be a part of the movement. Next slide. Alrighty, now I'm going to get much more practical. Now that you know who we are and what we do, how we came to be, let's talk about the actual regulations that are behind hydroponic certification. So first and foremost, land history is a big piece of organic, and anyone farming on permeable flooring must provide 3 years of land use history. So that means no prohibited materials applied to your land over the last 3 years. If you're still in that 3-year window, we would start a timer. We could work with you right away, but you won't get that full organic status until those 3 years have passed. If instead you're working on impermeable flooring like concrete, that does not require transition. There's no access to the ground. We could get started on your certification process right away. And that is not an invitation or a suggestion that you start pouring concrete tomorrow. Please don't do that. We would take a look at your history and how you've been doing things for a while. And it's really about honoring that and moving forward. Next slide. Gentia already covered this in a great depth, but we absolutely are interested about your growing media and your inputs. We would review absolutely everything you're working with. If it is certified OMRI, that's OMRI, that stands for Organic Material Review Institute, that makes things really easy because it means that that agency has done an in-depth review of all of the components within that input and made sure that they are safe for the organic operation. If they are not yet listed with OMRI, that's totally fine. Report them. We will do an independent review for you. There's a few other agencies that do that type of work. WSDA maintains a list. The CDFA in California maintains a list. But fear not. If you can't find any existing information on a media or a input, we'd be happy to take a look at it for you. We've also covered a little bit of these topics as well. Rock wool and other synthetic substrates that the plant grows into or could potentially be a nutrient source are generally prohibited. Things like coco coir or the peat medium that we talked about a little while ago, those things would be encouraged. And then synthetic materials that are structurally supportive, like containers or things that plants are growing on, those are definitely allowed because the plant is not absorbing them or using them as a nutrient source. So there's a little bit about that. If you remember anything from what I say today, OMRI is an awesome resource, especially for folks who aren't certified yet. That would be a wonderful resource. And it's a free search engine. If you just type that into a Google search bar, it'll come right up. Next slide. Seeds and planting stock. So organic seeds are required to be used unless they are not commercially available, and then you could tap into a conventional seed source. We will ask that you document your search with at least 3 vendors, saying, hey, I looked around, I could not find what I was looking for. And then if you seek that conventional seed option, it would need to be non-GMO and untreated, and you could get that documentation from your seed supplier. Unfortunately, price is not a pinch point that you can use in that seed search. You can say things like particular variety or quantity is not available, but price is not something we can honor as a distinguishing factor. So if it's out there and it's organic, we would be required to make sure that you're using it opposed to a conventional seed. Annual transplants must be certified organic, particularly sprouts, things like that must be certified organic. And then for mushroom growers, ready-to-use spawn must also be certified organic. Next slide. Natural resources are still of interest, even though you're operating inside a building. So we would ask that you demonstrate conservation practices of some kind. The particular phrase in the regulation is to maintain or improve natural resources. So maintaining can mean you're just not a detriment, right? You're not producing tons of runoff. You don't have an excess amount of plastic that you're throwing away every year. And then improving can look like things along the line of water conservation, renewable energy like solar panels, habitat enhancement around your building, waste reduction, all of those things can come into play. And we have the form we use to collect this information has so many ideas packed into it. So hopefully that helps kind of get the juices flowing and make you think of things that you're already doing that you probably didn't even consider natural resource conservation, but definitely are. Next slide. Water fertility and management. We get a lot of questions on water. Water just has to meet that state and federal level regulations. We don't have any additional testing that we would do or anything like that. So that's actually a smoother point for most folks than they expect. And then synthetic micronutrients generally require documentation to be used, but usually that's easily met within a hydroponic setting. If you need to use it, you just do the testing to prove that that needs to be the case. And then in the same vein as the previous slide, nutrient discharge should not be, negatively impacting things around your facility or being disposed of in a poor way. So that's also something we would look at. Next slide. Alrighty, inspection. This is also a common question. We would need to be able to see all of your equipment and your facility. Obviously, you shouldn't be applying labels that say organic if you're not organic yet, but all of the equipment and the flow of the facility should be something that we can audit. We don't actually even need plants on site. We just need to be able to see the setup and understand how it will function when it's operational. Wrapped into that are maps and all sorts of requested information around the facility as well. We're curious about that from like an aerial view as well as an inside the facility movement kind of view. And our forms, again, lay out all of that, product flow and layout, everything we're interested in is requested kind of line by line in the application. And then I didn't make a slide for record keeping, but Gentia is incredibly right. It is a huge piece of the certification process. Basically, we are not on site every single day, so we need to have a paper record that shows to us we understood what happened in the last, 365 or however many days it's been since we've seen you last. And that type of information is tracked within your record keeping system. The two common goals are an in-out balance, like was mentioned, and then also a trace back. If someone approached you with a finished good, could you trace it back to the day it was harvested? Things like that. And that's usually accomplished with lot codes or any internal tracking system. We do not have a set method that we require our clients to use when it comes to record keeping. It's really how are you doing things and will that work for our audit process? During the initial window when we're bringing you in and we're getting to know you and your systems, that's one of the big pieces that we're discussing with you is, wow, this plan is really solid. It will track everything we need to see. Or actually, I'm not entirely sure how you're doing this. Maybe we can bolster this piece of the record keeping system. So when we come back a year from now, we really know what you've been up to. And that's clear to our auditors in an easy to digest way. Yeah, next slide. Great. So those are the main regulations I wanted to cover. Now we'll talk a little bit more about the general process and flow of things. It all starts with that on-paper review. Like I mentioned, we have an application packet that kind of guides you line by line, idea by idea, what it is we're looking for in your certification agreement. When you complete that paperwork, it creates what we call an organic system plan, OSP. That is a very common acronym that you'll hear all the time in our world, OSP. And we will go through that initial paperwork in about 2 weeks to put together our list of initial questions. So once it's submitted to us and we have all those required forms, we'll go through and we'll say, like I said, we don't really understand this piece of your record keeping, or hey, don't use this input. It's not allowed for this reason, whatever it might be. Once those big questions are answered, we'll move to inspection. That first inspection is really digging into your record keeping systems, understanding your facility, and then year to year, it's maintaining those records, making sure we understand them. We'll review the inspection report from that visit. If there's any further questions or things we found that didn't really align, we would resolve those. And then at the end of that process, we'd issue a certificate. That entire process typically takes about 3 to 4 months to complete, with the inspection somewhere in the middle. And then we'll come back every year, usually around the same time as when you applied, but really whenever works best for you. With the folks in Alaska, it would be really beneficial if there was like a cohort of growers that wanted to do this at the same time, because that would make it to where we could go do the inspection and see everybody on the same trip. And that way it's cheaper for everybody involved. I'll get into fees a little bit more in a few slides, but right now we have limited clients in Alaska, but that does not mean we're not looking for more. We'd be more than happy to help anybody in your region. And the more of you that there are, the cheaper it is for everybody involved. And we are not, we're based in California, but we're not traveling from California. We would be traveling from wherever our closest inspector is at the time that we'd be doing your audit. And we've got lots of folks up there in Washington, and we try to find somebody close by working in your region. And then renewals, all of our clients are on the same renewal schedule. So we have a notice that goes out in November, and folks would renew by the end of the year for the next year of service. Next slide. I already kind of covered this, but apply, any questions, inspection, and then fully certified in a 3 to 4 month window. Next slide. Now let's dig into the fees. We have an upfront application fee of $350 to get started. That comes in with your completed paperwork. And then the inspection I mentioned is based on time and travel. Time on site billed at $90 an hour, and then travel billed at $50 an hour. Sorry, not an hour. Fees around travel are $50. And then annual certification fees that, like Gentia mentioned, is based on sales. We'll get into that in the next slide. I'll show you our fee chart. And then before I move on and say anything else about fees, I always plug the cost share reimbursement program. So this is a federal program that returns 75% of a producer's certification fees up to $750. So let's say you pay $1,000 or you pay $1,500 in total, you can get $750 of that back, which is awesome. And we do absolutely everything we can to support our clients to tap into those funds. We put together a summary of the fees you've paid us, and we would send that your way, making sure that you can apply. Usually each state manages those. Sometimes it changes within the state who is actually taking your application and making sure you get the money. But those resources are all available online. So yeah, that's a huge support system for organic growers, and it's super important. Next slide. Like I said, our annual fee is loosely based on sales. So the way we look at it is the value of the organic products produced over the next 12 months, minus how much you paid for certified organic season starts. So I always make sure folks deduct that cost of the incoming seeds they're purchasing. And then from there, you can see our chart here. Our base fee is between 0 and 10,000, and then it goes up from there. Crop and livestock folks fall on that little inside left column of the fee column. And then around tier 6, they start to become the same fee. And it goes on from there. Next up. We do organic certification, but we also do a handful of other things. Probably most relevant to this group would be food safety. We offer both Global Gap and Primus GFS food safety. So depending on your scale and if you need to meet those FSMA requirements, we could help out with that. And ideally, combine your inspection, so we're doing both in the same visit. Next up. Myself and my team, Vanessa and I, we are here to help. We're bilingual. We do one-on-one support. We would help you put together that application packet before you submit it. So going page by page and making sure you're filling out the applicable sections. If you have any questions about anything or what to submit, what to leave out, we could help with that. We'd put together a tailored quote for you if you have any questions about our fee chart. And then once you're in the door and you're in the application process, you're assigned what we call a certification service specialist. They might not be the person doing all of your reviews, but they would be the dedicated person to take your calls and make sure that you're supported along your certification journey. Next up. So if you're curious, or anyone you know is curious, that Get Certified button on our website is there. And then next slide, all of our contact information is right here. Vanessa and I can be reached at Get Certified at CCOF. And then if you call our main line and use extension 1, we're also available that way. But that is my little intro and overview of organic certification. Any questions?
Thank you, Kim.
Totally, you bet. Thanks for having me.
Are there any questions in the room?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Could we just use any any nutrients, or does it have to be a specific nutrient that we have to use?
The regulations are pretty strict about synthetics versus non-synthetics. So we'd be very curious about the nutrients you're using and making sure that they're allowed. But I would absolutely defer to the growers in the room who have done this. I mean, Gentia, I take your experience over my general knowledge any day, but seaweed, kelp, earthworm castings,
Seed oils. There's a lot of seed oils that we I forget where we have a seed derivative.
Fish emulsion, I think, is also one that comes up. Yeah, there's several fertilizer sources out there that you could work with. And like I said, that OMRI site is a really great resource. If you're already using something and it's effective, plug it into the site and see what it says about that. If it's not there, we would absolutely hash it out during the review process. Any other questions?
Sundance, are there any questions online?
Nothing in the chat, but if anybody has any, feel free to come off mute or type it in.
Great, thank you, Kim. That was really great. So nice to know that this resource exists and that you exist, and all of the interactions have been very lovely and very informative. So I'm just happy to always find a resource like that. It's really great. I'd like to open it up. If anyone has any questions for any of our speakers, or in general, anything you want to share, something you're thinking about, open up the space for a few minutes before we wrap up.
I think it would be interesting to know, especially for the folks who are here in Alaska, and this could be any of us, like what do we see as the needs regarding hydroponic growing and food security issues that we all want to work toward?
It's a great question.
Yeah, I think especially as related to the, as you referenced, many and several people attending online, many communities have hydroponic systems that are not being used right now. How could there be support in the state for getting them used in a way where it could be sustainable, and where people actually, to know if people want to use those resources, or to get those systems to communities and to locations where they could be more fully used. Yeah, it's a
I think a
resource.
lot of it is not miseducation, I guess, but uneducation. I think just getting the information out there to teach people how to do stuff is really important, only because you can't know something unless you've been taught it. So I see that here for food safety. I'm the food safety director, and people coming from like Latin America don't have the same standards that people in the United States do. So just training them, and it's just the light bulb. So I think that maybe training is a big avenue to get those systems up and running.
Mel, I see your hand up.
I do. We have come across this so many times of people asking us to help fix systems where they never got the help to maintain them. Now they're just storage units. And we have talked about, especially with the schools, is going in and retrofitting them. And what I think would be really good is if we went through the process of saying, okay, so you have one of these units that got dropped into your community. Here's a way that you can retrofit it and be able to use it without having to deal with the proprietary parts. That's the biggest issue, is that a lot of these systems are made with proprietary parts and they're no longer available, and there's nobody to help them find them, and so they become non-functional, and that is the biggest issue. So retrofitting them, maybe changing the system around inside that unit to being a little bit more, you could buy it through Amazon or Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever, and get them back up and functioning. But I think I would love to figure out if we could write a specialty crop lot grant to do that, or something to put those directions out for all the people in our state who've been given these units, which are now non-functional.
And I think too, just a lot of the systems I've seen too, you have someone coming in every 2 years who's not familiar with the system, and they lost the training. And so really simple training manual to go along with each of the systems, for the 6 systems that are the same in a bunch of different communities, to have here's how to do it. You don't have to wait for someone to come in, and it's not that complicated. But I think finding that information is overwhelming. Getting to that place where they're comfortable trying again has been kind of a barrier.
I'd love to have that stuff available through the Food Policy Council website. that's would be my ideal. Put it on our page for the working group and get that stuff out there and let people know, okay, you have one of these systems. Here's what you can do. Here's the way
Yes,
to
I
use
think
it.
there's definitely a lot of interest. There's oftentimes a person who's interested, but is overwhelmed by the idea of having to figure it out and fix it. I think both of those things a lot, in
Yeah.
addition to having the interest.
It's
Yeah, I know.
about time and money. So that's what it comes down to.
Going out to schools, I see a lot of units, typically all kinds of different tower units that have been passed from one teacher to another, and they just don't necessarily have the time to figure out what to do with it. I think here in Anchorage will definitely use like all of Mel's resources to pass along to people. And something like that would be a little bit more helpful, but the training, I do think is key, even if it is just somebody to stand there with them and say, hey, oh, that looks right to me, and then kind of go on.
I will say this, that we have done Zoom meetings with folks who've been retrofitting things. And that is totally, we don't need to be there physically in person to help somebody do that. It's a lot less expensive. We are definitely have that thought in our mind of being able to not just do the training ourselves, but train people to do that training as well. I would love to do that.
I'm Mel. Wouldn't we be able to have a Zoom meeting with Max so we can figure out a teaching program for our communities, for the schools?
Absolutely. Max, let's talk. Let's talk about this. I think this is great. Max knows how to reach me. You guys know how to reach me now. And just send out emails and let's pull it together.
Any other thoughts or questions? There in the room or online? Okay, and I believe Sundance, this will be available on the AFPC website, and I think on the hydroponics working group page. And any of this contact information is available for anyone who would like it, either through myself or through Sundance too. So
Yeah, I'll send out a follow-up email with the slides and the recording to everybody who registered, and we'll post it around our website too.
excellent. Well, a huge thank you to all of our speakers and for everyone who was able to attend. I'm so happy there was so much interest and really, I think, hopefully valuable information. So thank you and enjoy the rest of your Monday.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody.